Hello creators, thank you for joining me, and welcome to the art part with Miss Colleen. Today we're going to be exploring a little bit more the art element known as value. Now we know that value describes the lightness or darkness of a color, but sometimes we want to talk about the overall value of an artwork as a whole, and we have a couple of helpful terms to help us describe that: high key and low key. If an artwork has mostly light values, we describe it as being high key, whereas mostly darker values we describe as being low key. This is a way that we can start to understand how different works of art affect us in different ways through tone and mood by using value. And we can begin to use value in our own artwork to create different moods or tones in that way. The materials that you will need for this exercise will be a piece of paper. You can use a pencil if you like. It's not really necessary, but if you like to sketch out and plan your artwork beforehand, you can use a pencil. And just a box of colors. The first thing we're going to do is divide our paper in half right around the middle. So I'm going to use my pencil. You can use a crayon if you prefer. Just one simple line down the middle. Because we are going to be creating two similar works of art today. On one side, we are going to be creating our high key artwork, and on the other side, our low key. And similar to what we did in our warm and cool colors exercise, they are going to be the same picture, just with different values in this case. So on this side, or whichever side you prefer, for me, on this side, I'm going to do my high key picture, and on this side, I will do my low key picture. So on my left will be all my light values in my artwork, and on my right, my darker values. And you know what? I'm going to start by picking some colors. Maybe this is something you would like to do, or maybe you can start by picking what you would like to start out drawing. I think I'm gonna pick maybe an orange, maybe my blue-green, maybe one more color. How about a purple? And start to get some ideas for what I'd like to draw. So I remember that I am going to start with my high key drawing, and I'm going to try to remember to incorporate only light values on this side. So I'm going to be drawing with my crayons very light so that it's a big contrast, looks very different from my low key darker values on this side. I think I'm going to start out. I'm going to trade my orange for a red orange. It's okay if you change your mind, just to give you ideas. I'm going to start out with my favorite animal. That's what I'm feeling like today. I've got a fox on my shirt today, so I think I'm going to draw my favorite animal, the fox. You can do something similar if you like. This picture can really be anything you want to draw. We're just going to really practice using light values on our high key side and dark values on our low key side. But the subject of the artwork, the colors you choose, the lines and shapes, all of that is up to you. We're just really using our attention on our values. So I think I'm going to start by a very light value. Start with a couple of ears here. And very, very light. Come down for a nose. Some fur. And chest. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just really trying to practice those light values. Got a leg down here. Maybe the tail's gonna come around like this. And you kind of want to make something relatively simple because you are going to be drawing it twice. So don't get too complicated. That's my tip. Got a tail there, and maybe it comes around like this. There we go. And maybe a leg right here. Just very, very light on my high key artwork. Another leg over there. Add some details. I think I'm going to make its eye, give it a brown eye. You know, I'm going to give it some brown ears too. So whatever you're drawing, just remember which artwork you're doing. If you want to label each of your artworks to help you remember, maybe you could write high key at the top and low key on the other side. You can do that. It's just an exercise just for you. So whatever you want to do to help you explore, that is always okay. So this is my high key drawing, so I'm just barely touching the paper. Well, you know what? I'm going to give him a little black nose. Ooh. I don't have a point on my black crayon, so it's a little bit hard to tell where the nose is going to go. There we go. So I'm still trying to keep that light, although since it's a black crayon, it's already a little bit dark. But that's okay, especially because it's just that tiny, tiny spot. It's not going to make the overall artwork feel darker. And that's really the idea with high key and low key, is that it's the overall value of the artwork as a whole. And now, very, very lightly, I'm going to color in my fox. You know, I actually have fox leggings on in addition to a fox shirt today. I just really felt like showing my fox love. Very, very light because I'm going for that high key artwork. You know, I think that line's going to get lost. I'm just going to make it very slightly darker just so you can see it. Maybe I'll do the same here. Slightly darker. Not enough to draw the eye too much, just enough to give it a little bit of definition. And color in that tail there. That leg on the other side. Keeping it nice and simple so that I can do it again on the other side of the drawing, on the other side of the paper, in the other drawing. There we go. Give them some brown legs. Still very light for that high key effect. And if you start to notice how the lighter value makes your artwork feel a certain way, or if you're doing your low key first, how the darker value makes your artwork feel a certain way, that's what you really want to notice and explore. I think I'm going to have a stream. I think this fox is sitting next to a stream. And maybe it comes down from over here. You know what? I think it comes down from up here. Oh, got a double thing going on there. There we go. I just had to remind myself, I started coloring it in pretty dark, so I have to remind myself this is my high key light value artwork. So the overall value is going to be very light. If you forget, that's okay. Just remind yourself, keep moving. Keep moving forward, just exploring. Very light in my high key side. I think I'll add a little bit of that purple that I picked up into the water. Just because I want to. But I'm still keeping it very, very light. Next, I think I'm going to add some trees, but I'm going to keep it real simple because I want to be able to do the same thing on this side. So I think I'm going to bring in that brown. Maybe there's a tree right up here. Still very light. A branch maybe like that, and like that, a little one there. Keeping it light, and just exploring what that does for the mood of this artwork. Maybe a few little sticks and twigs in my tree. And then I'll add some leaves. Yeah, I think there's going to be a tree right over here, too. Very simple, very light. And I'm going to bring in a little bit of green. So it's not so much about which colors I'm choosing for this exploration, it's about how light I'm making those values. Because a color can have all sorts of different values. It can be anywhere on the scale, the value scale, from white to black. All the values in between. So I'm just very, very light for this high key artwork. And I'll probably color in all the white space in my artwork because I want to do the same thing on this side. So if I have a lot of white space, I'll have to do something with it over here, or it'll be too much of a light value. It works a little bit on the high key artwork because white is the lightest value. But if I'm trying to do the same thing on both sides to really explore those differences, then I want to try to do the same thing on both sides. You know what, I'm going to bring in a little bit of that yellow-green for my tree. Nice and light still. I'm not going to worry too much about putting all the leaves in exactly the same place when I do my second drawing. Just want to make sure I get most of the main shapes, the bigger shapes, so that the two drawings feel like the same drawing. So I've got some tree stuff going on up there. I think I'll do some grass, maybe some bushes to fill in that white space. And maybe there's a bush right here. Still very light. Maybe there's another one over here. Behind the fox. grass. Whatever you're doing in your drawing, you're just doing it very light on your high key, very dark on your low key. Keeping them different. Same picture, different values, different overall values. You know what? I'm going to put a little bit of blue sky right back there. Very, 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 very light. All right, I have my high key drawing. Very light. When I look at this, I think maybe this is nice and soft. This is nice and light. Maybe it's a bright sunny day. Maybe I can start having I can feel a certain mood in this artwork. So now I'm going to try to see how it's different when I do the same thing on my low key side. I'm going to start with my fox again. All right, I'm going to move my box of crayons a little bit. Start with my fox. Got the head right around here. Little ear. Little ear. I'm sketching very lightly, mostly because I just want to make sure I get everything in the right place, and then maybe I'll go over it a little bit darker. Because I remember that this is my low key drawing, so the values are going to be mostly dark values. But if you want to sketch things pretty light, just to make sure you get everything in the right place, that works. So I've got a leg right here. And that tail's going to come around and curve up like that. And down like that. Got a tummy. And another little leg. Now, get that brown for those ears. And now I'm going to make those values nice and dark. So I can really see the contrast between this artwork and my other artwork. This is my low key, and that one is my high key. We're just going to see how they feel different. Put a little eye right here. And get that nice black nose. Get that red orange, give it a nice dark value. That already gives me such a different feeling than that light red orange on the other side. Much bolder when I give it that darker value. It's going to be a little bit harder to see these lines now that I'm making everything that same dark value. Oops, I forgot about the brown legs. That's okay. I'll go back. I'll go back in with my brown. So whatever it is you're working on, just remember to make one of your artworks high key and one of them low key. It's like when someone says, I low-key want some new art supplies. Or I high-key think your drawing is great. Sort of like that. Not quite the same, but sort of like that. In this case, low-key, like I low-key want some art supplies. It's like that's one of the darker, more hushed ideas. I high-key think your drawing is great. It's a really bright feeling. Maybe that helps you remember. I don't know. Just something I was thinking about. So now I've got my fox in those darker colors. I'd like to make this white is the lightest value. So maybe I'll find a way to darken that up a little bit. Maybe I'll just, I don't know, maybe I'll just wait and think about it. Oh, I forgot the other leg, on the inside of the other leg. There we go. One way that I might do that, since a fox normally has a white chest and face and tail tip, the darker value of white would just be gray. So maybe I'll take I could even do my pencil if I wanted. Maybe I'll do my pencil. I could do my black crayon, but I know I can get a little bit more control on my gray with my pencil. So maybe I'll just shade this in a little bit so it's got that darker value. If you have something in your artwork that is white and you're on your low-key side and you want to just give that a darker value because you're doing your low-key artwork, then you can just take your pencil or your black crayon and very lightly shade that. So now I still look at that and I think, that is white like a fox's belly, but it's just shaded a little bit. I'm going to continue by taking my my blue-green that I used for my river and drawing that river again, but this time I can make it nice and dark. For my low-key artwork, getting those nice dark values. Now it is a little bit hard to get some darker values with crayons because when you do make them as dark as you can, you press as hard as you can, some of those crayon colors are pretty bold. Like that yellow, for example, still kind of a light value, even when you're pressing down as hard as you can without breaking it. So if you would like, you could take your pencil or your black crayon and mix in a little bit of that darker color, that darker value. And it might look a little unusual, but it is a good way to practice value. In fact, I might be doing some of that myself. Add in some of that purple. Nice dark value on there. And I'm going to go for my trees. I'm going to start with this tree on this side. Got a nice dark value on that tree trunk. And my branch, sort of up like that. Another one there. And I'll do the same with these branches up here. Sort of like that. Another one up here. And there. Another few little sticks and twigs. And color in those branches. A nice dark value for my low-key artwork. I'm gonna get my greens, get some nice dark values in those trees. One of my favorite examples, if you get a chance later to look up some famous artworks that use value, is, I believe it was Claude Monet. Could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure it was Monet, M-O-N-E-T, who did multiple studies, which is a way to talk about different art exercises, in this case painting. Multiple different paintings of water lilies in these beautiful ponds with these beautiful floating water lilies. And some of the different paintings are high key and have these beautiful water lilies in very light values, and some of them are very low key where they have this darker shading, this darker water and darker shadows and darker water lilies. And I find it very interesting to look at those and see the different ways those different paintings feel because of the different values of the overall painting. That's something you can check out. It's really very cool. Monet, M-O-N-E-T, if I'm remembering that right. Really, if you just search water lily paintings, you'll be able to find them. But remember, do that in free time. Don't do that during class. All right, got some darker values up there. And I'm going to add my grass. Oh, see, I started to do it really light because I was remembering this side over here, but I want my grass and my low-key side to be nice and dark. I'm going to do slightly smaller strokes, smaller scribbles for my grass as I get farther away, but still nice and dark for that dark value, low key effect. And put my bush right here. Like that. Some grass over here. Trying to get that white space a little less visible because that'll make the overall feeling lighter of my low key, and I want it to be nice and dark on this side. And I think I have another bush right here, behind the fox. Here we go. Bring these leaves down a little bit farther. Maybe put a few more. Now that yellow-green is an example of, I can press as hard as I want, but it's always going to be a very light value. So maybe I'll bring my my pencil or my black crayon up there to give a little bit of a darker effect. I do my sky. I don't really want to press as hard as I did with my river, or else it'll just be kind of confusing and look like there's a river in the sky. If you want to put a river in your sky, you can do that. It's your artwork. I'm not going to tell you no. But I do want this to look like a sky in my artwork, in my drawing, in my case. So I'm just going to give it a nice solid dark value, but not quite as hard as the river. It's kind of funny in this one, the river's sort of above the grass, but you know what? That's okay. That's the way it ended up, and I kind of like it. I think I'm going to take my black crayon and just darken in the trees a little bit. And it's going to look kind of funky, and that's okay. When I don't look like at the very specific details of the lines of the black crayon, it really just gives it an overall, if I'm looking at the overall feeling, it does make it feel a little bit darker. And that's what I'm going for. I'm going for low key. In fact, I'm going to do it a little bit on the branches too. Make it a little bit more low key. Yeah, that's making it nice and dark. I think I'll do a little bit on my fox too. Don't want to cover up the colors that I've used. Just want to make them a little bit more of a darker value. This is easier to do, I think I mentioned in another video, it's easier to do with oil and acrylic paint. You mix in black to get a darker value, or with watercolor you add more paint to get a darker value. It's a little bit harder with crayons, but you can still get some good exploration going with just your crayons and your paper. Pencil if you want. Alrighty. I'm getting a little bit of a better sense of the two different moods of these two artworks. With my high key, I've got a very pastel, very soft feeling. It kind of reminds me of springtime, reminds me of morning, reminds me of very light, soft, sort of cool, calming sort of vibes. With my low-key, darker value artwork, it's a little bit bolder, it's a little bit shadier, a little bit more going on, feels like. A little bit more, I've got a higher contrast between my orange fox and my green grass in this one. And in my high key drawing, everything is sort of very similar feeling. Very soft, very, very chill, it feels like. My darker drawing has a little bit more, my low-key darker drawing has a little bit more, feels like vibrance to it, life to it almost. This one is sort of like everyone's chill, this one is like, oh, there's a lot going on. So that's just my reflections on my artwork. You might have a different feeling about your high key versus your low key. And this is something that can really help you to convey different ideas, tell different stories, and create different moods in your artwork as you are exploring how to use value in this way. So I encourage you to take a second and reflect on the different ways, the different feelings that you get from your two similar drawings in your high key and low key overall values of your artwork. As always, thank you for joining me. I look forward to seeing you next time. Keep creating and keep sharing.